All right. So we are definitely live right now. Peace and blessings to everyone who is watching this show. And let me go ahead and share this video. It's been so long since I did a live. Don't even know how to share the video anymore. But peace and blessings, man. And most importantly, have blessed Shabbat, Sabbath, as they call it. Here, the Sabbath day starts Friday, sundown, Saturday, sun up. And I just learned that. I always just thought it was Saturday. So, but I have some very special guests tonight. Some brothers from around the African diaspora. I have my brother Rick Holland, who is all the way out there in Germany. What city are you in Germany?
Hanau. We're about 10 or 15 minutes from Frankfurt.
Yeah. Okay. So it's 1:00 in the morning over there. So the brother's up. He got some information that he wanted to share. So, and I welcome y'all in the chat too. Peace and blessings. And I also have my brother Kamal Gibson. Now he's out there in one of my old stomping grounds in Hampton, Virginia. Where I spent, a lot of my time in. So these two brothers, I definitely want to welcome y'all. How y'all feeling tonight?
Staying strong in it.
I'm good with it. I'm here. We ready to get some information out. Just talk to our people a little bit, let them know what's going on, and all around the world. Yeah.
So 1619, the that is a day, I guess, that lives in infamy, so to speak. A lot of people mention 1619 as the time when Africans first came to this nation. 1619, I think there is a documentary, Nicole Hannah-Jones, but my brother Kamal Gibson told me about the 1619 group, if I'm not mistaken. What is it again?
Sister Nicole is 1619 Project, and we are Project 1619.
And you guys were pretty much spreading that knowledge 20 years before her documentary came to prominence, correct?
Yes.
All right, so let's talk about it. Because some people say indigenous people ruled most of it, and I guess that's talking about Americas before 1492. So this is a very deep subject. So what is the significance, and y'all can just go in, of 1619, either the present, that very moment, or before then, or after then? How does that all play into the totality of time when in regard to Black people, not only in America but everywhere?
Go ahead, Brother Larry.
Well, during that moment in time, and you're talking about in the 1400s when the Europeans went into the continent to do what they do, and when we're talking about here in so-called America, we were always taught in the book, in their history's books, that the first placement was in Jamestown, which is about maybe 45-minute drive from here, where I am in Hampton. They hid that story, as they always try to erase us. They hid that story from Hampton. So we were right here where some of the tribal people, and I dare to call them Indians because that was a name shifted to them because the fellas didn't know where they were going.
Exactly.
Hoping to go to India, but made the wrong turn. Some came here. And so since they weren't where they thought they should have been, they renamed not only the people, but they renamed the place. So in this place in Hampton, which was called Old Point Comfort at that time,
okay,
was ruled by some of the baddest tribal people on the planet. The Kickitan warriors, the Powhatan. There was a federation of different branches of tribal people in this area, and they annihilated them. You know, they came in open-hearted, allowed them to come in, help to, because some of them had came in, man, to set up settlements, and they fell apart because the people were starving, diseased out, or whatever. And the so-called tribal people helped them to maintain a decent way of living. So then they brought in our people, you know, enslaved. Some would say indentured. I dare to differ in that stance. And I'll never say that they were indentured. Our people were enslaved, brought to this place, and that was the beginning. They say 20 and odd on the ship. Then it was changed to say 32 and some. You know, if I can't believe you from the beginning, you were a warmonger, you were a human trafficker, you were so detrimental in your dealings with, I mean, it was the worst crime against humanity. And you're going to tell me that I need to believe your story? None of it. Some things have to make sense. And a lot of it, to me, is convoluted. So you have historians that call themselves authority, but most of those people that wrote our story were European. They can't tell my story. And a lot of stories about us, a lot of our steppings weren't written because we lived in an oral tradition. So some of our steppings, our movement weren't on paper. So, but when we came here as enslaved people, that opened up a serious wound to me. You know, so I take when I'm talking about Project 1619 and the coming of the first enslaved Africans on the British side, there were some Africans that were enslaved on the Spanish end before then. So I'm talking about those that came in on the English side, on the British side, and that was in August in 1619.
All right, so do y'all know the particular area where they brought the Africans to America? Because there's always some, you know, conversation of, you know, what group of people or what lands did they actually get the people from Africa from? Do y'all know anything about that?
Yes, brother. And that's what our organization did. We corrected that narrative. We did the research and found out that they called it at that time Old Point Comfort, which became, you know what Fort Monroe is? You've been here in the area.
Yeah, what's that? Newport News, right?
Fort Monroe is right after you come through the tunnel and over the bridge from Norfolk into Hampton.
Oh, that's Hampton. Okay, yeah.
That Fort Monroe is right there. Fort Monroe was established to keep check of the waterways from the enemy coming into this area.
Okay.
That was a intentional spot because it served as a watch guard, you know, for the British.
Go ahead.
No, it was a serious point of location from the Revolutionary War, the Indian Wars, and the Civil Wars.
If I might,
where Hampton University is,
yeah,
all that coastline, Hampton University and Fort Monroe, all that coastline was where our people came in at.
If I might, were you, Brother Taylor, were you asking where did our folks come in from Alkebulan to the U.S., meaning like two of the points in Ghana was Elmina Castle and Cape Coast Castle. Okay. And then all along the western coast of Alkebulan, I think that's what he was talking about, Brother Larry, where our folks came from. But the problem is just thinking about that. When we talk about 1619 before and beyond, what we're doing is we're speaking about where did they come from even before they got migrated to the west coast of Africa or Alkebulan, right?
Is that what you were asking, Bachi?
Yeah, I was asking you, like, where did you, because you mentioned the British and the Spanish, and like you said earlier, I caught it, but you said when the Europeans went to Africa to do what they did. So just like the Berlin Conference, like Spain went to this part, Portugal went to this part, they went and raided different areas. So that's what made me ask that question, because like I said, Spain was integral in the slave trade. Britain, Portugal, all of those European countries went to the continent and said, okay, well, we're going to take this area, y'all take this area. So that's why I was asking, what particular area did they come in to emphasize what Brother Rick calls Africa. I can't even say
Al-Kabulan.
Al-Kabulan. That is the original name of the continent, Al-Kabulan.
Right.
And see, even when they say that, when they say, like they said the first enslaved came here were from Angola, not true. Even when they had our people in barracoons in Ghana, in Nigeria, all over the West Coast, many of those Africans that were boarded on those ships came from all over the country. It wasn't just Nigerians or just Ghanaians or Cameroonians that they snatched from the coastline. They went into the interior, the Central Africa, sometimes at the northern part and the eastern part of Africa and the Ma'afa. They stretched those people from wherever they were in the distance and brought them to the the West Coast, to be shipped out. So many of those Africans that were on those ships, many of them couldn't even relate to each other because all of them had different dialects.
Okay.
So because all of them got on the boat in a certain place, didn't mean all of them were the same people. Well, okay. I'm going to say the same people because all of them were from the continent, but they were different cultures.
Different tribes, just like today.
Yeah. And you mentioned the Berlin Conference and stuff. Before all of that, our people didn't have no Chad, no Zimbabwe, no Malawi. We lived in kingdoms, territories, empires, and regions. When the Europeans came, that's when all that fragmentation came about.
All right, so how do you explain? And I did some research on King Leopold II of Belgium, and they told me how trickery and how cunning they were to the loving people. About how do you explain the great kingdoms, the Songhai kingdom, the Mali kingdom, the Kush kingdom? How do you explain these great warriors, these great people, these great kingdom wise men, astronomers, architects being, I guess, overcome, conquered by these more or less weak, unwise people? Because before then, the Moors had to teach them how to bathe, how to bury their dead, how to clean their food, store it, all types of things. So how do you explain us, with all of the wisdom, with all of the God-given makeup, being usurped by these people?
Go ahead, Brother Larry.
Go ahead.
That's an open question.
Yeah, but the first thing, I mean, to get to this point, you're sort of taking us in a direction like we need to go back to the beginning, right?
Okay.
And then we have to slowly proceed forward.
Okay. Well, let's go back to the beginning. Like I said.
So the thing is, and what we spoke about before, and what our people, I don't know. I'm not going to say they don't understand, but some things we are reluctant to actually engage in, right? So that means that we have to go back to what is the foundation for us? What is the foundation for our education? Our foundation for education comes from one place, and that is the Bible. So once we go back and we start to look at what biblical teaching, which there are so many different edited versions of this, then we base our foundation, everything that we know, or everything we hear, everything we see, everything we do, it is based on that, and how it is being portrayed to you sort of inhibits you from doing certain things. If I hold the Bible and you don't know because it's been taken away from you, I can get you to do anything I want to do. Why? Because we are attached to nature. And with those morals and values that we have, I can tell you that it's wrong for you to talk to me this way. And I can go to the Bible and I can find a chapter and a verse, a book, a chapter and a verse that will say to you that you can't do this to me. And you will do it. Why? Because you have these morals and values that's in you. So what I'm going to do is, since you don't have it and I do, I'm going to go through and I'm going to find every book, every chapter, every verse that would give me power over you. And this is what I'm going to use against you. So most of these things, most of these events that happen, it wasn't because the people were weak. It is because they were morally grounded.
Okay. Okay.
And I'm going to come in with this book and I'm going to tell you, thou shalt not kill. But what am I doing? But I label it a different way. I'm going to call it, I'm going to defeat terrorism.
Yeah.
And you are going to buy into it because you are morally grounded by what we spoke about is inherited, ancestral, and derived. You have ancestral traits. So that means you are in line with your ancestors, but if you are derived, you go based on by what you have been told. We are ancestral people. That means we have a lineage. Everyone else is derived from us, like we spoke about mitochondrial Eve. Every person on the face of this planet has her DNA in them. And this is what we have to understand as a group of people. We are somebody. But when it comes down to us being vicious, malicious, that's not a part of our ancestral alleles, our DNA.
And
we're different. I'm sorry.
No, I apologize, but in agreement with that, I think the great John Henrik Clarke read from, I think, Christopher Columbus' diaries. They said when they came over, the natives. Now he's talking about the natives here, which were, indigenous people, tribal people, or black people. Would just say,
right.
He said, well, look how nice they are.
Uh-huh.
Oh, how much easier they will be to conquer.
Sure.
And then he said, well, they were showing them gold and everything. He said, oh, look at all the gold they have. I wonder where the mines are. So that was their mindset, or that is their mindset since then until now.
Right.
Come, conquer, let's take advantage of the humanity of melanated people, I'll say, because like you said, they're doing it all over the world now. So,
but see,
go ahead, brother Kamal. I see you chime.
That's a part of the piece that when you asked the question about the weakness of, and it wasn't weak. What Brother Rick was sharing too, it wasn't that they were weak at all. It was because they were hardened. We even before religions were even developed, we were a spiritual people. It was about loving. It was about growing. It was about family, communities. So when they came in, and we just like the tribal people here, they had a heart for, or they had their weakness came when they thought that everybody had their best interests at heart, and they didn't. These jokers were thieves, robbers, rapists. They came in for gang's sake. That was their whole movement.
You said where?
Oh.
Okay, because we're witnessing it right now in
Venezuela,
Iran, and Libya, all of these places where they have gone across the globe,
still,
and just terrorize people in the name of, like Brother Rick said, democracy or freedom. Like I said, they'll give it a name, and but it will be steeped in murder. So I understand. Where that question comes from. But now, so going back, because people mentioned this in the comments, and we're talking about, like I said, the people who came over here first, and then you brought up the Bible, Brother Holland. So a lot of people feel, and I want y'all, that the people who were brought over here are, somebody put in the tribe of Judah, or somebody put in the 12 tribes.
Absolutely.
A lot of people believe that. Where's y'all stance on that? I know that, like, the Bible is a Black history book. That's
right.
How I see it.
Right.
It's a Black history book. So go ahead.
Here's the thing. I was thinking something that I do often now because we're in this situation. You can't be comfortable. Your mind is always working, and the message that we have is the message to our people, from seeing it from different perspectives and different vantage points. So we have to understand. First of all, the folks who make these comments that we are, I really and truly believe that we are. Now, what we can believe it, but how can we support it? You can get out and you can say, well, I strongly believe this, but if you don't have evidence, which was stolen, right? When the Pope, I think it was in 1088, I believe, when he sent his Knights Templars into King Solomon's temple to take all the information and bring it back to Rome. They were stealing our history. So when they took it from us so they could rewrite it. One of the biggest threats to our folks, and I'll get back to where your question. The biggest issue that we are facing, and this started forever since the invention of TV, and we may have issues with this, but I just gotta say it because the truth is the truth. The biggest issue we have is Hollywood. Hollywood can make anything look good, and it can make anything look bad, whatever it wants to do. And I will tell you why. They couldn't beat Muhammad Ali. What did they do? They invented Rocky. They had to get Clayton Moore to play the Lone Ranger, but who actually was he? A black man. Yes. So what happens is, when you have the money and you have the capability to not only let your voice be heard, but now we're going to put it into action, we can destroy you. Even though you're a good person, we can destroy you. All we have to do is put it on a screen and get enough people to buy into it. And that is what's happening. We took a man and we said, he is Superman. We'll put a cape on him, the Man of Steel. And you know what? How many kids wanted to be Superman? Even us. We wanted to be Superman. How many of us has ever looked at the series Daniel Boone when he threw the axe through the tree and the tree split open, and we out trying to throw an axe through a tree and split it open? Well, if they can do it in Hollywood, then I can do it here. But when you look deeper in this, Daniel Boone's son name was Israel, and his son was blonde-haired and blue-eyed. Don't that get you to think? If I'm telling you on the screen that the folks of Israel, that my son name is Israel and he's blonde-haired, blue-eyed, who are you going to think are the people in Israel? You're not going to think that they're Ashkenaz that was brought in to Israel. You're going to think that they're blonde-haired, blue-eyed, which excludes us.
Well, that goes, and I'm sorry to cut you off, but that goes once again with even the educational, but also the, like, every movie, whether it was Moses, whether it was Job, The Last Supper, all of those Hollywood movies depicted everybody in the Bible as white. And
Absolutely.
the psychological effect of that, without even telling you, just like they had the experiment where they had the black girl and they gave her a white doll and a black doll.
Right.
And they said, which one's the prettiest? She chose instantly the white doll. Why? Because that's all that subconsciously that we've been taught. Like some, the picture of Jesus. My mother, I love her, and they had a white picture of Jesus in the living room until recent, until it was like 2015. I had to come home and I was like, this is not what the book said he looks like. But because it's been so ingratiated and so ingrained as us, we'll say that it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Why? Because we've been, and then you couple that with the Jim Crow, with the domination, with the power of white. Somebody said, it's sad that we have made our God in the image of our oppressor. Mm-hmm. So in some ways, black people worship whiteness. Why? Because subconsciously, the imagery, like even when I'll admit, when I used to close my eyes and pray, because I grew up in church, they had the weekly weeders every Sunday where everybody was white, John the Baptist. So when I closed my eyes to pray, guess what I saw? Mm-hmm. A white God. Right? You know what I'm saying? And many people don't want to admit it, but so those are the things. And then along with the educational system, where it says George Washington never told a lie. The greatest scientist was Louis Pasteur. The greatest mathematician was Isosceles. And everything that was white was good, but everything was black was, you was a slave, Martin Luther King, and Rosa Parks. Mm-hmm. That's we never learned about anything pre-1619. I'm sorry about that rant, but it just Hollywood is a major part even today. But go ahead, brother. Come on.
Yeah, well, even at that part, true, still. But even before then, what you just said too was that the people don't read, they don't study, because if they read the book and understood the book, almost every event that ever happened in that book happened on the continent of Akabula. All of those people were people of color, but they don't see that because they look at the pictures and then hear what's told them, and they don't study. There's a proverb in Africa that says, we've been copying everyone else for so long is the reason why the monkey cut his own throat. Mm-hmm. We mimicked, we were being assimilated, indoctrinated. Now we think we them. We walk their step. So when I talk to black folks, I said, do you know any Africans? They said, well, we know some. I said, y'all don't know any personal? They said, no. I said, you are African. They don't even see the connect because we were taught disconnect. So I asked, had a conversation with some whites, and I I say, if you put a basketball in the oven, does it become a turkey? They said, no, it remain a basketball. I said, so then it is with those of us that are descendants of those Acubulans that came here to this country, so-called America. It's impossible for us to be them because America is a made-up institution. It ain't even real. It's an illusion. And when they designed it, it was never with us intentional, never to grow us. You know, even when they created schools of higher learning, back in the day when they first started that, it was, they called them normal agricultural schools or normal technical schools. They taught them trades. They never taught them to be doctors, lawyers, you know, presidents. You know, they never, in any leadership position, they never taught us that. They didn't even want us to go there. That's why they didn't want us to learn. So when they give, you go to cultural centers here, and they say, yeah, well, the blacks were illiterate and stuff. And I'm saying, yo, stop saying that to people. They just didn't know y'all's nonsense. If you went to the continent and you were on the end that we're on, then you would be the dummy because you wouldn't know the steppings. No, we didn't know English. We didn't know the way that they regulated themselves. But we found out, we learned to, through the media, we learned to be just like them, talk like them, dress like them, act like them. Oh, we got it down pat now. We do it better than them. We mock and mimic them when they try to be us.
So I think so is that part of the problem, Brother Holland, that we have taken on their way? You know, and the scripture says, learn not the ways of the heathen. I got my Ethiopian Bible here too, just so y'all know. So
yes, ma'am.
Is that one of the issues that we are having?
Before it was necessity, and now it's a convenience, and that's the saddest part about it, right? Before our ancestors, there's some certain things that they had to do in order to survive, to make sure that we came to vindicate them. But what we did was we took a necessity and we changed it into a convenience, because that's how it's brought about today. And going there and coming back is just something I want you to think about. Why study DNA? Why is it studied? It is studied for one reason. It is studied because everyone is trying to find out who we are and how we continue to survive. They know nothing about us, zero about us. So it's those things. So getting back to it, since we took it and it is a convenience for us, we use that to try to be a part of, or to, stay in a marriage that has, the divorce papers was filed a long time ago. I don't know what we would call it, but America has shown, before you didn't know, but thank God Donald Trump came. And I just got to put it out like that, because when you are on a battlefield and you don't know who the enemy is, then of course there's certain things that you have to do. Then you are more on edge, right? But now the battlefield has been clearly defined, and it is defined by social status. It is defined by education. It is defined by economics. So what happens is, if you look at the majority of the people, I won't call them your enemy, but what I will call them is, it's an issue. Who are these folks? Who are these folks that's being preyed upon to become now the majority, to give a system what it wants. Who are these folks? Well, now what we have seen and what the whole world has seen, they've seen that maybe we should have been listening to black folks a long time ago. And this is what black folks don't understand. We don't understand the power that we have been given, that we have been presented with. Because now the world is sitting back trying to figure out, well, when are black folks going to do what they do? Are you going to pray and make things better? Well, when we told you this before, you didn't want to hear it. What have we been doing for the last over 400 years? The European Americans have been driving a car off of a cliff at 100 miles per hour with no brakes. And you know where we have been? We have been standing in front of that car, holding it back to make sure that they do not go off the cliff. And what I'm not doing is, I'm not fabricating anything. I'm telling you what we should all know just by seeing it. So we've been standing, holding that car, in front of that car, trying to ensure that that car does not go off the cliff. Why? Because we say, I pledge allegiance to the flag. We sing America the Beautiful. But now, since no one listened, are we still going to try to hold a car back that is destined to go over the cliff? Are we going to stand beside and watch it go over the cliff? Or are we going to get behind it and say, well, I guess it's time to push?
Some of us will hop in the car and drive, but go ahead. Go ahead.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Some of us want to go.
I want to ride with you. Okay.
But
Go
then
ahead,
that's part of the problem. You know, this conversation that we're having right here, right now, I was having this same conversation in the 60s and the 70s. And our parents and their parents was having this conversation back then.
Nothing changed.
Like, it's not like this is what's happening now is brand new, because it's not. The thing is, do people, like you said, of convenience? Well, the thing is, to me, is when you get tired of playing. You got to stop playing the game. You have to take it upon ourselves at some point to say, we done with it. We keep trying to work our way into the fabric of this place when this place never wanted us, ever. Every move they make, everything that they share, it eludes us. But we still try to make ourselves fit. But case in point, I have my granddaughter who is light bright, almost white and looking. My niece is my youngest brother's daughter, and she's mixed. Her mother's white. We went to my brother's home to prepare for his son's high school graduation. And I watched my granddaughter and my little niece, they're the same age. They were sitting down on the floor. They were about maybe 6 or 7. And my granddaughter said, they watched the cartoon, and she said, I want to be her. And my niece looked at her and said, you can't be her. She said, why? She said, because she's white. And my granddaughter looked at her, well, I want to be. And I cut the TV off. I said, we need to have a serious conversation. You feel me? And it's not just in our children, but it's even in the adults. They're still trying to blend in to a system that's anti-black. They will never accept us. I don't care what we do.
I have these arguments with a friend of mine, and they're all into politics. We just got to get the right people into office, and I'm like, you think they're gonna let them change this system that's working exactly how it's been designed to work? Now, when y'all said something about convenience, it came to mind that that is the issue, because we claim that we don't like these schools. We don't like the treatment, the law, but we're not doing nothing to tear it down. Everybody, you don't like the way the police are treating you, but you go to work at a prison. You know what I'm saying? So all of us have some type of culpability to keeping this system running the way it does. Why? You go to your corporate job, you put up with the boss talking to you all crazy. Why? Because you done bought this Lexus that you got to keep. You done bought this house because that's what they said you had to do. So now you got to put up with all types of sorts of stuff. Or you get those things to make you feel accepted. I'm just like you now. I bought a house in the white neighborhood, right like you. But that is a byproduct of what has been done to tear us down through the institution of 1619, going back there.
Absolutely.
It is.
There's a couple things that we have to do, but as you were saying, what we get involved in, it still is based on what you see in the mirror. And what you see in the mirror is what they told us that we would see, and that person that you see in the mirror, that's your biggest enemy. So anybody who looks like you, that's going to be your enemy. And that's what's happening. What we have to do is we have to look in that mirror, and we have to change that image, right? Changing that image for me means that I'm gonna change it for you. I look at my folks totally different. I see my folks totally different from the way things were when I was coming up, right? And it's something that we have to do. We have to understand that we are one people.
True.
And unfortunately, like Brother Larry said, woven into the fabric, woven into the red, white, and blue. It's everything is okay with that, but we have to understand what type of relationship we are in right now with the folks in America. We have to, and no, of course, no one's going to tell you that. What we have to do is we have to sit down and we have to have constructive conversation like this to try to come to a conclusion of how all this is going to work out. Because first of all, every country, not every European and Asian country has at least a 250-year plan for their people. Now, if you think about it, what is going on in Europe right now, today, they didn't just come up with that today. That was developed 250 years ago. So is in Asia, 250 to 500 years. That is their plan. What is our plan? Our plan is America's plan. But how can our plan be America's plan when you're not included in that plan? Or you are part of the plan, but the part of the plan that you are included in, is your destruction. And I've asked this question over and over again. And excuse me for using my this expression, but if every black disappeared from America, or as far as that's concerned, if every black disappeared from this planet tomorrow, do you think anybody would care? There would be one of the biggest parties that you've ever seen. When you think deeply about that, knowing that the person that you sit next to or the person you're standing in line in front of or behind just do not care about you. And they would do anything they could to try to destroy you, even if you a humble person. You're not bothering them. But they will find a way to agitate you or irritate you into doing something stupid that they can put you into a situation to take you off of the face of the planet. And you haven't done anything to them. Not only is it sad, but it's sick. And the unfortunate part about this is we have become sick along with them. We're just as sick as they are. Why? Because they would do it to us, but we're going to do it to each other.
That's called insanity. That's insanity.
How can we, as about 40 million people, how can we feel good about anything? Knowing that at the drop of a hat, I'm ready to take the life of my brothers and sisters. How can we feel good about that? And the things that we have done and the things that we're doing. I want to help you out. I can't, because I got to stay in my lane. Would we say that about the white folks? Are we going to stay in the lane when they need help? I don't know. I'm confused. Being away from that country has opened my eyes to a lot of things. And one of them is the power that we possess all over the world. But what do? We don't venture outside of our neighborhoods. We don't get out of our cities. So now we have become comfortable in that environment, believing that the whole world is like this. No, it's not. It is not.
So tell me about, because that's one thing that we talked about, in the beginning when we first started talking, because you've been watching my show when I focus on a lot of things that happen, to blacks in this country. But you tell me, okay, well, if you venture out, if I go to Germany, you will see a whole nother perspective about how people treat and receive blackness.
Yeah. Now, this country, of course, it has its history, right? Mm-hmm. And I have a book, and I actually showed it to Brother Larry about the plan. So we know what the plan was. We know what people's greatest fear is. I have a book that was given to school kids in this country in the 30s and 40s. And their greatest fear in that book is, their greatest fear is us.
Well, that goes, go ahead, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead, brother. Go ahead, brother.
That goes with Frances Cress Welsing, the ISIS leaders. So that's how it all began. And she mentions the fear of genetic annihilation,
right?
Which means the gene in the non-melanated people is recessive. So they looked at the globe and noticed that 90% of the globe is melanated.
Right.
So they said, in order for us to stay alive, only thing they have to do is really mate us out, because everyone who has a child with a non-melanated person, that child comes out melanated.
Absolutely.
So that's when they came up with this grand elaborate scheme, and it's for fear. Like you said, they fear us, but it's fear of, in the words of Dr. Welsing, the late great Welsing, genetic annihilation.
Homozygous and heterozygous. Absolutely. Dominant and recessive. Okay. And dominant always takes precedence. Understandable. And this is what I'm saying. They are the same. There is no difference. But what type of conversation can you have when you come as a person who knows who you are? And that's what we have to do. All over this world, Who does the bidding for us? It's not us. Economically, socially, we have a delegation to go to different countries to represent the people. Are we getting the representation that we deserve? No, we're last. So the plan continues. What we have to do is we have to go and we have to venture out and we have to listen to these folks and we have to ask them sometimes the questions that you don't find in the history books. Because it's not like we don't know who we are. We do. But again, being comfortable and convenient in a certain situation will give you or will allow you. We're not going to worry about that because the only thing we want is, like you said, I want to get my Lexus.
There's another African proverb to deal with that piece about how do you catch a monkey. And when we were talking initially, Brother T asked the question of me, what conscious-minded, what are there any conscious-minded people here in my area that I, contend with? And I told him, very few. And, when you say I'm black, or people ask me, how you doing, man? I'm saying staying black. Then, ha, you can't help that. And I'm saying, you don't have a clue. Because black is more than just a color. It's a consciousness. And most people are unconscious. That's why homeboy be talking or kicking it now, talking about, this is for the woke people. And a lot of our young are saying that, we call it conscious-minded back in the day, but it was still the same thing, being woke, being aware of who you are and who the enemy is and, what the scheme of things is. They say you take a glass jar and fill it with marbles. Monkeys like shiny stuff. It's a belled jar with a narrow head and a small opening, just long enough or small enough for him to put his paw into. And he'll grab the baubles and bees. And when he hears somebody coming, he try to get away, but he can't get his hand out of the jar. They cluck him in the head with a small Louisville slugger, like a little baseball bat, knock him out. And when he come around, his little head is sticking through the hole in a table. And they are lobotomizing him and eating his brains while he sits. Now, Europeans call that an aphrodisiac.
Right.
The reason that the monkey got caught is because he refused to let go of the stuff. Or he got his hand in, all he had to do was think, let the stuff go and I can get my hand out. That's us here in America. We are so trapped in the trappings, the havings, we don't want to let it go. Even if it's to our detriment, and it is, it's killing us. And I'm more so than I'm with Elder Frederick Douglass. He said it's far greater to build strong youth than it is to rebuild broken adults. That's my mantra. I'm thinking about our children's and their children's children, and trying to educate them about our steppings and the power that we have here. They say we are the mass spenders in this country. If we stop spending for 8 months, we'll bust the economy up. But nobody will stop spending. They'll do it for a day or two and mess with Target or, Walmart or stuff, make them lose thousands of dollars. But they can write that stuff off. That don't mean nothing. But to do it on a continuum, when Dr. King and our people were out in the streets protesting and marching, white America could care less. It got world attention, but it didn't move them. And the only thing that caused them to switch gears was when he said, let's boycott the bus lines and the lunch counters, start messing with their God, that money. Things started changing. When Dr. King started talking about the Vietnam crisis, which that war machine was a moneymaker, he didn't live too much longer.
Mm-hmm.
So here in this place, it's all about the money. You follow the money. And many blacks that are in leadership positions, they won't tell the people, hold on to your dollars and let us pool our monies together. We should have our own banking systems here. If all the multi-million-dollar entrepreneurs, athletes, entertainers, the black churches, and man, if we pool our monies together, we could erupt some things, but they don't even think that thought.
Because they're so once again caught up in the havings, they and I thought about the scripture where you was talking about of where we spend our dollars at. People all even people who don't like Trump or who don't like, you buy Nikes, you don't know what Nike is doing with your money. We buy Mercedes Benzes, and although we don't know where that dollar is going, right? But as the scripture said, where your treasure is, there will your heart be also. You know what I'm saying? So a lot of us spend our money because that's where our heart is. Our heart is loving the things that really don't matter. That really have no value. You're gonna pay $5,000 for a Louis Vuitton pocketbook, just because it got Louis Vuitton on it. But we've been so conditioned to think that our worth is equated to the things we have.
Yes,
that we have bought into that.
Yes.
Do we love ourselves? Do we love ourselves? I'm sorry, Brother Larry.
You if you're talking about individually, yes, but holistically, I don't think we do. I don't think we's do. People's. I don't think we do.
And if not, why not?
I'd say this for me. I realized when I was free what was necessary for me. And I became free when I stopped thinking that I had to have other people's validation or stamp of approval on my life. I had to be me, live me. I don't have to answer to anyone about, my steppings. And what they think about me or say about me, I could care less. I'm going to do whatever I can to uplift myself and other people around me. That's why I live. That's my purpose of being. Part of my purpose for being is to build up. Right. So if you think that, your movement, and I teach my children, don't be two-faced, be yourself. Don't be one way with black people and another way with white people. Just be you. Make them accept you for who you are and whether they understand you or not. That's not even the issue. The issue is that, are you strong enough to be yourself in the midst of? And that's what a lot of our people don't know how to do or won't do.
Yeah.
And we were like, I'm sorry, go ahead, brother.
No, I just want to agree, with what you're saying, because like you said, when you come into yourself and you're comfortable with being yourself and who you are, who God created you to be, then that's when, once again, you begin to love yourself, but you also begin to love others. You can't love yourself until you accept yourself. Okay, this is who I am. I don't have to be like these cats over here on the corner. I don't have to be like these cats over here. What you realize? Okay, Dad, this is what I like doing, and I had a problem with that a long time. Okay, well, what's cool? What's popular? What is everybody doing? What is going to make everybody like me? That's what I did. But then when you learn, okay, when you be yourself, everybody not gonna like you. You know what I'm saying? Because you different. And I learned, that by, doing what I do now, which is helping others. You know what I'm saying? And that's when the scripture comes to mind: no greater love that a man has than he will lay down his life for his friends. Right. We don't have that. You know what I'm saying? not literally lay down your life, but stop what you're doing and help out. So I know I got something to do, but I'm gonna go ahead and help you because you in need right now, and I have the wherewithal, I have the resources, I have the energy to help you out. But once again, somebody typing in the comments the evil of this capitalistic system, which has trained a lot of us. Oh, I got to get mine. I don't care what I don't care what y'all ain't got it, and if I got it, I ain't gonna tell you how to get it. And a lot of us, that's one of our issues as well.
Right. I want to say something. Then I have a request. I spoke with Brother Larry, and I told him my greatest fear. My greatest fear is not dying. My greatest fear is if I had to come back, how would I come back? My greatest fear is dying, and if I came back on this planet to come back anything other than a black man. I have gotten so comfortable and so attached to this. The resilience, the strength, the morals, the values, the love. I feel bad for white folks. I feel bad for white folks because you don't know me at all. You don't know how I feel. But then again, you should, but you don't want to because you came from me. SLC 2485 and SLC 4582.
What does that mean? Break that down for the layman.
These are two genes. SLC 2485 and SLC 4582. These two genes, and I would have to do my, go back to it to bring it to you. But this is why white folks are the way they are and who they are, right? And nobody's talking about that, but that's how they became white, and we are the way we are, original, right? So but nobody's telling them this because nobody's doing the research. But if they could just be me for one day, they would be so pissed off that they don't have this blessing that we have, and we're trying to give it away and be like them, walking around. And this is why we are the way we are. They're walking around miserable all day
because they not us.
Because they not us, and we doing our damnness trying to be like them and got everything. Now where does that come from? And it shows today who we are through all of this. Do you know what? It is a great time to be alive. Why? Because we know that history book is not necessarily a lie. We know the Bible is true. It's being shown to us every day. We're not counting our money and thinking about how many cars we have and all this. We're thinking about how good it is to know that some of the words in that book is true if you don't believe all of it. John Hendricks Clark said, if you think that all of it is true or should be true, one of the greatest teachers there were, he said you should have your head examined. But he never said none of it was true. Right? So we know, but why are we trying to be like them when they wake up knowing that they can't be like me? That's why they mad at you. They mad at you because you can wake up with a smile on your face because you know who got you up. And they walking around mad because, man, I'm having a good day. And you know what? They're in the position to say, oh, you having a good day? Well, I'm not, but I'm your boss. Now I'm going to try to change that. Why? Because they don't want to see you happy. They want to see you miserable, and we do everything we can to trade places with them. Eddie Murphy, Dan Aykroyd, we trading places. Why? For what reason?
Mind melding.
Once again, it's the, I think it's the years long history of being denied certain things. Like there was a movie or a documentary or advertisement that said how to sell the Negro. I don't know if y'all ever saw that, but it's just basically saying that they've been without for so long that you can sell them anything if you tell them that it's important and it will elevate them. And so it's a state. You said you had a request because we going on an hour. I normally don't, like.
Can you do me something? Can you do me a favor? You put up a photo of mitochondria Eve.
Yes, sir.
Could you put that up for me? This right here, when this was done, after it was finished, it brought tears to my eyes. For a reason.
So what does that explain? What the people are looking at?
Mitochondria Eve, every person on the face, she is not the first woman, but every person on the face of this planet has her DNA. She's holding her baby. And who's reaching up for her? The two kids, the European and the Asian kid, are reaching to her because they share her DNA and they're trying to get back close to her. That's our queen. The black woman. The only woman on the face of this planet that can give birth to many nations. Our sisters don't need to be trying to be anybody else. She's right there.
So why do you think a lot of our sisters, like I just did a story about the dangers or the health risks of the chemicals and perms, as well as the synthetic hair and weaves. Like both of those products have been known to cause serious health issues in our women.
Well, let's take it in this direction. And I'll say it like this. Have you ever seen, and excuse me, I don't want to be, I don't want to be like that, so please don't take it this way.
I know where you're going.
But let me ask you a question. Have you ever seen Hollywood put an ugly white woman on TV or a white woman on TV that didn't have a lot of makeup on her? No.
Not usually.
And they're not going to do it. Why? Because they want to tell the world that we have the most beautiful women in the world. That's what they're trying to say. And that's why when we see that, the weaves and all this stuff, and I'm not knocking it, everybody do what they got to do, but that's what they do. That's more of that psychology.
The most potent weapon in the hand of the oppressor is the mind of the oppressed. And we've been dealing with this for hundreds and hundreds, because I used to be pissed off at us people. Feel me? I did when I was younger. And as I grew in the state of my consciousness, I felt sorry for us people, because I realized that we've been indoctrinated for all these years, told this, told that, and we've succumbed, to, convenience or whatever it was. But I recall some of our people were resistant. Everybody didn't fall down into the rabbit hole or went quietly into the good night, and some of those of our people chose not to run. I say I couldn't have been a slave. Either I'm running or I'm dead. But I looked at it again, and some of our people that could have ran did not run because they was thinking about some of the others that would be left on the plantation. So they sacrifice self. And then go back to what you shared too about, no greater thing than a man can do than give his life for a friend or for his people. They chose to stand in that space to endure all that madness, and which caused PTSD upon us, and not just PTSD with black folk, but some of the white folks got it too.
Right.
Exactly.
If I might continue, I just wanted to say this, and I made that statement for this reason. We have to look at who makes the makeup and who's doing all this stuff, and if you see some of these actress, when they take that makeup off of them, we don't need that. We don't need it, but their classification of beauty is what we're trying. We're trying to trade places with folks that, if it wasn't for us, they wouldn't be here. We don't need, and you will hear, you come to this country and folks will say, how old are you? You have no wrinkles? What are you doing? That's your age? And it's a fact that we don't age like everyone else. So India, one of the largest importers of skin lightening cream. And that's what I'm saying. We don't need all of that. But Hollywood says you do, then that's what we're going to do. This is how we classify beauty. So you got to get this cream and put this in your hair and do this and do this and do this, and then you fit the classification. We have to go back to being ourselves, who we are, who we were created to be. Because anything else, we're saying that the creator, he did something wrong. We have no choice. The writing is on the wall. If we don't get this fixed, I would say within 10 years, then we will be at the point where our numbers are going to start to decrease even more, because the plan to remove us from America after the Emancipation Proclamation, that plan has not changed. The plan is still in place. But the folks now who's trying to employ that plan, they're not necessarily wearing hoods and all this stuff, and they're wearing suits.
Mm-hmm.
But the plan has not changed.
Brother Bruce Bridges wrote a book called Recapturing the African Mind. See, and that's a part of, the miseducation that Baba Carter Woodson said, the miseducation of the Negro. We have to, and Dr. Clark said it before he left here. Dr. Clark said it took him over 50 years to debunk the information that he learned in Harvard and in Yale.
Mm-hmm.
He said he had to throw that stuff in the trash can. And that's what we've done. We've become who our captors were. We them. And they resent that piece because we whatever we do it better than them.
Yeah. We
do white better than them.
Absolutely. So, Brother Taylor, it's we almost out of time.
Yeah, we almost out of time. So if y'all, well, we definitely gonna be back. I think I don't know, what time or how frequent can the brothers do this, but I plan on, bringing the brothers on, at least once a week. I don't know if that's too much for y'all, but
We good.
or at least whenever you guys can come back, to share this wealth of knowledge and just share some information, hopefully to enlighten our brothers and sisters, and like you said, empower us, because we have a lot of things in this society that disempower, if that's a word, but disempower us, and we have to have something to combat that. But go ahead, Mr. Otto.
Brother, my granddaughter told me that, in a conversation we were having. And she said, Granddad. I said, yeah, baby. She said, what you just said, that wasn't a word. I said, yes, it was. She said, no, it wasn't. I said, baby, where do words come from? She said, well, people make them up and then it hit her. What?
Yeah, I make them up all the time.
Me too,
but I
brother.
think that is a real one. I do think that is a real one.
Oh, yeah. If it wasn't, it is now.
Yeah.
You put out the atmosphere, stupidity, anything, nutsicity.
Yeah.
I
made one of those.
I made that up. Okay.
The white cicity. They're showing a lot of white cicity.
Hey, come on.
So, but brothers, if y'all want to leave the people with any information that you might not get out, or leave them with a couple of final thoughts, the floor is yours.
Go ahead, Brother Larry.
Well, I would like people to know that I am a part of Project 1619 Inc. And you can look us up at project1619.org. And our organization is about repairing some of the destructive mindsets during the state of the takeover of the continent. If our people were unified, they would have never been in capture at all, no matter what. And a lot of them realized that on those slave ships, that the little tribal differences that they had were so minute that it kept them from staving off the madness that came with Europeans. And, trusting them and thinking that everybody has their best interests at heart when they didn't. Everything was underlying. There was ulterior motives. And what our organization is doing is trying to connect Black people all over the planet. Project 1619 just not belong to our board and some members in Hampton, Virginia. This involves every Black individual on the planet, every Black organization, every Black HBCU, every Black cultural center, every Black entity whatsoever. And we're trying to bring us together. There are communities of Africans in this place, at least 6 different cultures, and none of them will come together, and they don't get with us. And some of the youth will say, our parents told us when we came to America to not hang with Blacks in America because the media has stereotyped us to be gangbangers, drug dealers, and all of that faction. And some of them come over here believing that because they don't know us. So we're trying to strengthen that relationship. And when we have our event in August, the first enslaved African landing day here, it's about bringing African delegations into the country, kings and queens and, everyday people to get to know us, who we are. And many of them are saddened when they get here because they never thought that the slavery that we had to endure wasn't like the slavery that they had in Africa. It was horrific, and they didn't know what had become of us or what we had to contend with. So it's about reconnecting all of us so that we can be one people.
Amen. And definitely let me make sure that you remind me, or let me know about that first African day landing or first. I definitely want to be there too. So
okay,
cool.
Okay, brother.
Cool.
Brother Holland.
It's been a pleasure. And just to put out the information from my vantage point and my perspective. It is important because time is something that we do not have a lot of. It is time for us to fix this now, and we have to come together. Everyone else, when they have differences with anybody else, they all come together, and then they will fight against their common enemy, and then they will go back to having their issues. But they don't come with knives. They sit down and they have those conversations. We have to be more civil with our conversations, and we have to start to respect each other more. I wrote something a couple weeks ago, and I spoke with Brother Larry about that. We always have good conversation. And it was, I was born a man before I was grown a man. And what we have to do is we have to understand that we were born touched by God and protected by nature. But our growth in this system was all orchestrated by man that was manifested in us. We have to now understand that the imperfect hands of man cannot help us to become good people. We got to get back to what God created us to be. It comes with not necessarily sacrifices, but there are some things that we have to give up in order to inherit what is actually ours, right? And one of those things is, man, we can't be taking each other's lives. We can't do that. We can't be seeing our brothers in the street laying homeless and not trying to pick them up. We can't do that anymore because our numbers are too small for that. And even though not necessarily in the numbers, but it is the right thing to do because that's what we were here to do. The things that we're going through, none of this is by chance or by accident. It's to see, are we prepared to take the next step? So when we walk by each other, it's not that it's there just to be there. It's there to test to see who you really and truly are. Are we really and truly connected to each other? We got to. We have no choice but to come back to each other. Our blood, our ancestors' blood, soaked the soil of America. But when we see our babies, our young folks, their blood now running in the street, what if one of our ancestors could come back for one day and walk down the street and look at us? Would they be proud of us? Would they say, this is the sacrifice? Open up their shirt and say, look at my back. Look at these marks on my back. This is what I did for you. And what are you going to do for me? We're going to kill each other. Was the sacrifice, was their sacrifice, the ones who refused to throw their kids overboard and to jump overboard and take their own life, they said, we know that we will be vindicated by our people. Are we doing that? They would be disappointed. The bruises that they have, our women being raped, babies cut out of their wombs, stomped in the head, our babies being fed to alligators, gator bait. This is what they went through. And you know what we can't do? We're too weak to have a normal conversation. But their endurance, the strength that they had, they suffered for us. How can we do that? how can we be comfortable with ourselves knowing the sacrifice?
And that's a great way to look at it. That's definitely a great way.
We got to fix this. We got to fix this. And it starts with each and every one of us.
Amen.
Love you, brothers, dearly. Thank you for keeping me humble. Thank you for keeping me humble, brothers.
No, thank you for, sharing your knowledge. And I know this is just the tip of the iceberg. So, if nothing comes up, hopefully next week or the week after, we can bring you guys back on and, discuss some more solutions, some more insight, give some more wisdom, uplift, empower people. I definitely thank everybody who's been in the chat. I've been reading the messages. There's been so many. So I definitely thank you guys for interacting with each other as well. I know somebody said, block somebody, but now I'm not going to block anybody. Everybody's not going to agree. Might have some trolls in there, but the scripture said you let the wheat grow with the tares, and then when it's time to harvest, then we'll take them up and burn them, and then the fruit will manifest. But I definitely thank you, brothers, man, for your time. Thank everybody else for watching. Make sure you share the video, and I leave you with this scripture, because it definitely spoke to me when you were saying about how we got to fix it and some of the problems that we face. 2 Chronicles 7:14 is a very familiar scripture. If my people who are called by my name will humble themselves and pray and seek my face, and most of all, turn from their wicked ways. That's what we have to do. Turn from our wicked ways. Then I will hear from heaven, and then I will forgive your sins, and then I will heal your land. So that's one thing that we must do. We definitely have to turn back to, once again, the original state of our being, who, just like you said, Brother Harlan, we were touched by God at birth.
Right.
We were created by him in his own image. Like the mitochondria Eve, we were the ones. So we have to turn back to that, turn from our wicked ways, which we have usurped from others. And, then we will, get some healing. But I thank you, brothers. I love you all. I love everybody.
Love you dearly, brother.
Make sure you all check out the videos. If you haven't subscribed, please subscribe. But we definitely going to have these brothers back soon. But as always, I pray you have peace and blessings.
Thank you for keeping us humble. Enjoy.